All right, so are you ready for this one? This is, it's going to be a wild one.
Yeah,
Buckle up.
I'm ready.
Two families escaping East Germany in a, get this, a homemade hot air balloon.
Wow.
We're talking 8 people, including children, risking it all for a shot at freedom. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like a movie, right?
It does.
But this is real. This actually happened.
Absolutely incredible.
And you have to remember the context.
Yeah.
This is the late 1970s, the Cold War. You know,
Right, the height of it.
height of it.
Yeah.
East Germany was like super tightly controlled, part of what was called the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, I mean, the Berlin Wall literally divided families, armed guards patrolled the borders, and the order to fire policy was in effect. I mean,
Yeah.
escape was incredibly dangerous.
So dangerous. These families weren't fleeing like war or famine. They were desperate for freedom. I mean, they were willing to risk everything for a chance at a different life. And the crazy thing is, our main characters in this story, Peter Strelczyk and Günter Wetzel, they're just regular guys. Strelczyk was an electrician and Wetzel a bricklayer. Not engineers, not pilots, but they had this burning desire
Right.
to escape with their families.
It's amazing how their journey even started. Can you imagine watching a TV program about hot air ballooning, and instead of just being entertained, you think, hey, maybe we could do that? It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They actually first considered a helicopter,
They did.
but getting the engine, I mean, that would have been impossible without attracting the attention of the Stasi, right?
Absolutely. The East German secret police. They were everywhere.
So they needed something that they could build themselves under the radar. I mean, that's where this hot air balloon idea comes in. I mean, where do you even begin? I can barely sew a button. I don't know about you.
Right. It was a massive undertaking, for sure. I mean, they figured out they needed a balloon capable of holding 2,000 cubic meters of hot air just to lift 8 people, and the gondola.
That's enormous.
I mean, that's like trying to lift a small car.
Yeah.
And then you think about the materials, we're talking 800 square meters of fabric.
Okay, so how do you even get that much fabric without, setting off alarm bells? It's not like you can just walk into a store and be like, hey, I'm building a giant balloon to escape to the west.
Exactly. They had to be very creative. They came up with this cover story about needing the fabric for their camping club.
A camping club.
A camping club. They told the shop assistant it was for lining their tents, apparently.
I don't know who's buying that, but okay.
Well, believe it or not, it worked. They managed to buy all that cotton fabric without arousing too much suspicion.
That's amazing. But can you imagine, like, Wetzel, a bricklayer by trade, hunched over this, 40-year-old sewing machine for weeks on end, stitching this enormous balloon together?
What a sight that must have been. The dedication is just incredible.
Meanwhile, Strelczyk is tackling the gondola. I mean, this thing was an iron frame sheet metal for the floor, clothesline for the sides. They were really MacGyvering this thing.
Yeah, really resourceful.
They were resourceful.
And they even managed to construct a burner from propane tanks, hoses, old pipes. I mean, they were the ultimate DIY enthusiasts.
So they've got this massive contraption, but I'm guessing the first test flight didn't exactly go as planned.
You'd be right. They found a secluded clearing, tried to inflate the balloon, and nothing. It just lay there on the ground like a giant pancake.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They quickly realized that they needed to find a way to inflate the balloon vertically.
Okay.
So they found this 25-meter cliff at a quarry.
So they're hanging this homemade balloon off of a cliff. I mean, that's terrifying.
Oh, yeah. It was a risky move for sure. And even that didn't work. The cotton fabric was too porous. It just couldn't hold the hot air.
Ugh, all that work.
Yeah, and it cost them valuable time and around 2,400 East German marks. That's DDM, their currency back then.
So not a small amount of money.
Not at all.
I can't even imagine the disappointment. All that work, and it's back to square one.
It must have been crushing. But you know what? They didn't give up. They went back to testing different fabrics this time, using a vacuum cleaner and a glass tube to find one with strong enough suction.
Really, a vacuum cleaner?
Yep, that's what they used. Imagine the dedication. They finally settled on synthetic taffeta, much more affordable than their first choice, which was umbrella fabric.
Okay, so new fabric, new balloon. But wait, didn't they need 4 times that amount for the first balloon?
Right.
Where are they getting all this taffeta?
They had to be incredibly resourceful. They drove over 160 kilometers to Leipzig and spun this tale about needing the fabric for sails for their sailing club.
A sailing club?
Yeah.
Come on, at this point, it's amazing they weren't caught.
I know, right? It's like they were living a double life. But things get even more intense because by now, the Stasi had actually found the abandoned balloon from their first attempt.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the Stasi knew someone was trying to escape and the net was closing in.
So the stakes are getting higher. What do they do next?
Well, they knew they had no time to waste. Strelzik destroyed any evidence he could. He even sold his car, fearing they might be tracking him.
They were racing against time, knowing the Stasi were on their trail. What happened next? We'll have to find out after the break.
Well, they knew they had to go big or go home, basically. They decided to double the size of the balloon, which meant they needed like a ridiculous amount of fabric, 1,250 square meters.
Are you serious?
I know, it's mind-boggling. And to avoid suspicion, they had to buy it all in small batches from different stores all over the country.
I mean, that must have taken weeks, if not months, just to gather the materials.
It did. It was a huge logistical challenge on top of everything else.
And they're still sewing everything by hand at this point, right?
Well, they did have a little help this time. Wetzel managed to rig up an electric motor to the sewing machine.
Okay, so a little bit faster.
Yeah, to speed things up a bit. But still, think about this new balloon. It's pieced together like a giant multicolored patchwork quilt. Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine that thing floating in the night sky.
I can only imagine this crazy quilt balloon carrying these two families to freedom. I can picture it.
Yeah, it must have been an incredible sight.
So how did they actually manage to pull off the escape with this new balloon?
Well, they got a little help from Mother Nature. A thunderstorm rolled in, providing perfect cover for their preparations.
Oh, wow. So the storm masked the noise and everything?
Exactly. It obscured them from view. It was meant to be, they knew this was their chance. They inflated the balloon in just 10 minutes.
Wow, 10 minutes.
Yeah, and got ready to lift off.
Okay, this is the moment of truth. They're about to risk everything. What happened?
Well, it almost ended in disaster as they were lifting off one of the tethers holding the gondolas snagged, tilting the balloon and sending the burner flame dangerously close to the fabric. The balloon actually caught fire.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was a close call.
Oh my gosh, what do they do?
Well, luckily they kept their cool and managed to put out the flames with a fire extinguisher they had brought along, but it was a very, very close call.
So they're in the air, but their problems are far from over.
Oh, no, not at all. They had to contend with freezing temperatures in the open gondola. It was -8 degrees Celsius up there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, the balloon developed a tear, which limited their range.
So they're freezing, they're drifting off course, and at any moment they could be spotted by East German searchlights. I mean, the suspense is killing me. Did they make it?
They did. Against all odds, they landed just across the border in Bavaria as their propane was running out.
They actually made it. I can't believe it.
I know, it's incredible. Wetzel actually broke his leg on landing, but they were free.
Oh, wow, what a story. What were some of the first things they noticed that told them they were actually in West Germany?
Well, one of the things that struck them immediately was the lights. East Germany was a much more drab and austere place at the time, so the colorful lights of the West were a stark contrast. And then they saw a difference in the farms in the East. Agriculture was largely collectivized into big state-run farms, but in West Germany they saw small family-run farms, a visible symbol of the different economic realities.
It's amazing how those little details, the things we might take for granted, suddenly become so meaningful when you've been living under such different circumstances for so long. It must have felt like stepping into a different world.
Absolutely, but their escape wasn't just a personal victory. It had consequences for others as well.
That's right. Remember Strelzik's brother, Eric? He was arrested just hours after the escape.
Yeah, the Stasis were furious. They immediately tightened security along the border, shut down small airports near the border, and even started registering propane gas tanks to prevent copycats.
Yeah.
This daring escape had sent shockwaves through the East German regime.
And sadly, Strelzik's brother, Eric, was arrested just for being related to one of the escapees.
It's a tragic reminder of the reach of the East German regime, sadly. That was standard practice in East Germany. They would often punish family members of those who defected as a way to deter future escapes.
It's a heartbreaking reminder that even in achieving freedom, there can be a heavy price to pay. But at least their families weren't in prison forever.
You're right. Thanks in part to pressure from organizations like Amnesty International, they were eventually released after serving 2.5 years. And despite the challenges they faced, both families ultimately built new lives for themselves in the West.
It sounds like they finally found the freedom they had risked everything for. So what happened to Strelzik and Wetzel after they settled in West Germany?
Well, they were able to pursue the lives they had always dreamed of. Strelzik opened a TV repair shop, and Wetzel became an automobile mechanic. They were free to work, to live, to raise their families without fear of the Stasi watching their every move.
It's an amazing story of resilience and determination. This escape was even turned into a movie, wasn't it?
Yes, in fact, there are 2 films that tell their story. The first is called Night Crossing, a Disney production from 1982. The Strelzig family was reportedly moved to tears when they saw it at a screening in New York City. And then more recently, there was a German film called Balloon, which came out in 2018.
I've heard Balloon is a more realistic and nuanced take on their escape.
It's supposed to be quite good. The director wanted to make a German film for an international audience, and it seems he succeeded.
It's amazing that their story continues to resonate with people all over the world. But sadly, Peter Strelzig passed away in 2017 after a long illness.
He was 74 years old. His legacy, though, lives on this incredible escape, stands as a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome incredible odds in the pursuit of freedom.
Absolutely. And the balloon itself, the very vessel that carried those two families to freedom, what happened to it?
It's now on permanent display at a museum in Bavaria, a tangible reminder of their extraordinary journey. It symbolizes the length people will go to for freedom and serves as an inspiration for those who continue to fight for it today.
What a truly inspiring and incredible story, from a TV show about ballooning to a daring escape across a heavily guarded border. It's a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the enduring power of hope.
It really makes you think about the choices we make when faced with oppression and the true meaning of freedom.
This has been an amazing deep dive. What a powerful story.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Hearing about Peter and Ginter's escape, it really makes you think, like, what would you do for freedom?
Yeah, it's a powerful question. These families, they weren't facing immediate danger like a war or famine. They had jobs, homes, lives, but they were willing to risk it all for something more, that freedom to make their own choices, to live without constant fear and control.
It's a reminder that freedom, it's not just this abstract concept.
Right.
It's about living authentically, having
Yeah.
control over your own destiny. And in East Germany, under that kind of regime, that was simply impossible.
And what's so fascinating to me is that their story, it highlights how oppression can take so many forms. It's not always about, physical violence or deprivation.
Right.
The Stasi's control over every aspect of life, it created this invisible cage. It
Yeah.
stifled creativity, individuality, even hope. So escaping it wasn't just about crossing a border. It was about breaking free from that mental and emotional prison.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about them, right? They had children. That adds another layer of complexity to their decision.
Absolutely. They weren't just risking their own lives, but their families' futures as well. And think about the impact on those left behind, like Strelzig's relatives who were imprisoned. The ripple effects of their pursuit of freedom were enormous.
It's a sobering reminder that even in fighting for what's right, there can be unintended consequences. But their story also shows incredible human resilience, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. They weren't skilled engineers. They were ordinary people who used their determination and ingenuity to overcome incredible odds.
I mean, they had to learn everything from scratch, experiment, fail, start over, and all the while they're living under the watchful eye of the Stasi. I mean, the pressure must have been immense.
It must have been. But their ability to persevere, to keep that hope alive through all those setbacks, it really speaks volumes about the human spirit.
It's inspiring, really. And we talked about all the meticulous planning and resourcefulness, like testing fabrics with a vacuum cleaner or using a simple bread bag to navigate. I mean, those details, they really highlight their commitment to this crazy plan.
Yeah, and let's not forget the mental fortitude required, facing constant surveillance, knowing the consequences of failure were so severe, and yet they never gave up. That takes incredible inner strength.
Their story reminds us that even amidst depression, even when faced with these seemingly impossible obstacles, the human spirit can find a way to soar. That balloon, now in a museum, it's more than just a relic of a daring escape, isn't it?
It's a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of the human will to break free from constraints and reach for something better. It challenges each of us to consider, what are we willing to risk for the things we believe in? What would we sacrifice for freedom?
What a profound question, and one will leave you to ponder. This has been a truly remarkable deep dive. From the technical details of building a hot air balloon to the emotional weight of their journey, we've explored a story that speaks to the very essence of the human spirit. Thank you for joining us.